And here we have the monthly Bujo spread that I did completely screwed up because I got my days of the week wrong and had to start over. Welcome to Stitch It Witch. Today we're going to do a bullet journal spread. Welcome to Stitch and Witch. So I'm not sure voiceovers are really my thing, but I kind of sped up this whole video because it was really long, because this took me a really long time. So my monthly spread this month is, or my monthly theme this month is Hamilton, and I used my Cricut to make stencils of the silhouettes of the Hamilton logo and the Schuyler sisters, because I figured I only need them for the month. I did them on cardstock. I don't know how long they'll last. But you can see my Cricut cutting them here. And then I kept the inserts as well because I figured I could use those. I want to apologize for the state of my desk. This is my lap desk, which I don't usually use for videos. But I was in kind of a hurry, and then this spread still took me like an hour because it was just a rough day that day. I was screwing up a lot. As you saw at the beginning, I screwed up an entire monthly. I'm going to use old paper or dotted journal paper from an old journal that was left over to glue in over that old one. So this is my monthly spread. You can see that I penciled it out for May. I used one of my Tombows, and I'll list in the bottom hopefully all the markers that I used, if I can remember them all. But I used one of my Tombow Dual-Tip brush pens to create that. I thought that was like the perfect Hamilton color. This is where I screwed up before, though, was that because I do my calendars from Monday to Sunday. Sunday is the first, which is actually the day that I'm recording this. I'm recording this on May 1st, finally. And I completely forgot that Sunday was the 1st. So I started on Monday, which was just foolish. And I had to start the whole thing over, completely redesigned my entire spread because I didn't like how the other one had come out. So I don't know how much of this I'll actually end up voiceovering. But here I used my stencil to make the Hamilton logo. I know that I could have just hand drawn it. I've done it before. I did a Hamilton spread a few years ago in my bullet journal that I don't even know if I took photos of at the time, because this was before I was really sharing my bullet journal anywhere. So I know I can hand draw that logo, but I think I wanted that uniformity and I wanted the ease of a stencil. So taking the couple of minutes it took me to get my Cricut to make it, which honestly I did during a meeting. I was in a Zoom meeting and just kind of letting my Cricut do its thing. So it didn't take me any extra time. And it's going to save me a lot of time, I think, through the month as I do my weeklies. So at the top there, I did my quote, look around at how lucky we are to be alive right now. There's actually a chalkboard in my living room that my cousin wrote that on, and I've left it there since she moved out. And it's just still there because it's just a lovely thing to think about. Look around, look around. For some reason, I forgot to cross the A there on May. You'll see me come back and do that later. And now my MacBook is overheating, so you probably can hear a slight hum. Sorry about that. So then I colored it in with my Tombow Dual-Tip in just the solid black. I had a little bit of a problem with ghosting with this journal spread. I haven't really in the past. I think I'm not one to usually color in big blocks like that with my watercolor markers. So I think that it's kind of, this paper just can't handle it. This is an Artist Loft journal. I'd love to have something with a thicker paper, but honestly I go through journals so fast because I do so much in them that I've never felt I could justify the cost of a more expensive journal than the Artist Loft ones. A journal lasts me not even 6 months. Usually a journal lasts me 5 months, and I do a lot of like extra little notes in between my prettier page spreads and such. Okay, so this is the part of my monthly that I'm not completely happy with. So that is, as you can see, I'd done the stencils in 3 different sizes. That's the Schuyler sisters. I really wanted to fill in that little space there with the Schuyler sisters so that I could have both in the beginning of the spread, in the monthly part of the spread. But, so I used this is also where I got the ghosting. I used my Tombow in that blue, and I kind of just dotted around it to give kind of the shadow effect. And then I went on and I did the same in the pink and the yellow to get all the colors of the Schuyler sisters. First of all, it quickly became apparent to me when I started with the yellow that I should have done the yellow first. It was a really foolish move of me not to, because of course the blue was already on the edges of the stencil, which meant that I carried some blue into the yellow like a fool. The blue also was, as you'll see when I turn the page to do the brain dump page, the blue was also the worst of the ghosting. Blues tend to do that anyway in my experience. Like every blue markers just tend to be rough on your paper. Something about whatever it is they use to make a blue color, blue pigment, makes it bleed really bad or ghost really bad. So yeah, there was a little bit of a blue that carried through the yellow that I wasn't happy with, and just overall, I'm just not completely happy with the way that came out. Usually I'm kind of okay with what happens in my bullet journal, and even still, like, I am okay with it. I thought for a moment about covering it up with a different piece of paper and doing something different, but I decided that I didn't want to, that I wanted to leave it and live with it. But yeah, I'm not completely happy with it. It's okay, but I'm just not completely happy with the way it turned out. But, you know, this is why I do these things in my bullet journal, right? Bullet journals are for experimenting with my markers, experimenting with my art tools. I use them a lot for sketching and coming up with new ideas and that sort of thing that will then apply to my actual art pieces. So I guess this is kind of like a perfect example of me doing exactly that. I took my tools that I had and I experimented with them, and I'm not completely happy with the way that it turned out, but it's also in my bullet journal, and after the end of May, I'll probably not look at it again for a really long time. So I took my Micron pen there and outlined it. I decided it wasn't quite precise enough with just the color, so I outlined the Schuyler sisters there in each color to kind of emphasize what exactly we were looking at, and hoped that that would fix the problems that I had with the way it looked. It didn't. I'm kind of wishing I'd gone with the larger stencil and done just like around each of the different Schuyler sisters in their own color. I think that would have looked a little nicer, but I also think it would have kind of encroached too much on those days that are right above it. And in my monthly, I do tend to use all my days. I need them all available to me to write appointments and such in. Planning out my month takes a lot of work. So I didn't do that. I'm wishing I had. Live and learn, you know. Moving on, well, sort of moving on, because as you can see, the Schuyler sisters are ghosting through right there. But this is my brain dump and my accomplishments page. I've kind of this month merged those into one large spread. Instead of separate spreads. I didn't need as much of, or haven't needed as much of my brain dump page in recent months. So I kind of just moved it over to a single side of a page and put my accomplishments on the other side. I can't remember if I did that last month or not, but I know off and on I've done that different ways over the years of bullet journaling. I use my brain dump page honestly for those moments when you're on the phone and somebody says, you know, I have that number for you and you need to write it down real fast. That's what ends up on a lot of my brain dumps. Or I am driving in the car and I want to make sure I don't forget something. I will pull my bullet journal out and hand it to my wife and say, hey, write this on that page right there, right? And that's basically what my bullet journal, my brain dump pages are for. So there is my Hamilton logo in the Hamilton gold, which didn't bleed as much as the blue, luckily, because as you can see, I did a large chunk of it in that color. I really love how that kind of overlapped over the two pages like that through the center of the page. I love it. As you can see, this is where I started to really not feel the lettering, and I just wasn't feeling lettering that day. I wasn't into it that day. So I just wrote it out as I needed to. I completely messed up right there on my May accomplishments. You're going to see in a moment, I ran out of room for the word accomplishments. Went back through with my whiteout and just wrote accomplishments at the top of the page. And I actually planned it out the second time around so that it wouldn't be messed up. This was just like the monthly planning that I just messed up all over the place, apparently. I don't know what was up with me that day. I really wanted to doodle and draw. I just was not into the actual planning part of it, I guess, and that's the part I kept on messing up, was like the actual planning out of the bullet journal. And then I immediately picked up my dark brown pen. You're gonna watch, this is ridiculous. I don't know what was wrong with me that day. I wanted to do light brown lines that I was then gonna put in my headers, right? So I did a dark brown one, I whited it out, picked up the same dark brown marker a second time. I had them both in my left hand, and I couldn't for some reason get the right one into my right hand. This is what I mean, like, I think that people watch these bullet journal videos all the time. If they're anything like me, they watch these bullet journal videos all the time, and it always looks like everything is so perfect, and it always comes out so perfect. And I almost didn't post this video because of how many times I screwed up and had these errors with the ghosting and these actual, like, picking up the wrong markers and everything. But I really think it's important to show these things. Oh, I used my gel pen there to hide some of the ghosting. It worked pretty well, actually. And it's a brain dump page. By the end of the month, that page is going to be a mess anyway, so whatever, I don't care. But yeah, I really do feel like it's important to show these kind of mess ups. So I did that here. So you saw the monthly that I messed up, that I'm going to cover, the monthly that I decided on, my brain dump page there with my accomplishments page, everything I read, everything I knit, and then other things I want to talk about in my monthly roundup at the end of May will all go on that page. And then I finally got into my weekly. Oh, totally lied. First, I went over accomplishments with a black marker because I decided I didn't like how the blue looked. I wasn't big on the purple with the brain dump either. I think my pages got too colorful. I listened to the podcast Hamilcast, and I actually asked in the Hamilcast Patreon group, I was like, what colors do you associate with the show? Because I think I went on color overload with this show. I wanted to include everything because the costuming in Hamilton is so incredibly beautiful. I wanted to include the color of, like, Jefferson's coat and What Did I Miss and all these different things. And it just became too much. And really what I needed to do, I think, was stick with the basic gold and black of the Hamilton logo. Get that yellow, gold, and black. And I should have done that from the start. I think that's probably how most of the month will work out. I'll probably have the gold, the black, and then the 3 colors of the Schuyler sisters and nothing more. Because although I love that, you know, those Jefferson purpley mauve colors, it just was too much for one spread. And I ended up going back and coloring over a bunch of stuff with black. So I did my quote there on this page is, there's a million things I haven't done, and then under the accomplishments I put just you wait. That felt just too perfect for a brain dump and accomplishments page. So before I moved into my weekly, I took this washi tape that kind of looks like it has, like, letter writing on it, and it's that perfect Hamilton gold. I got it from, I think it's the collections set at Michael's. And I got it on clearance a really long time ago, and it just seemed like a perfect one for a Hamilton spread. And then I moved into my weekly, which honestly is my favorite part of this monthly setup. I really like how my weekly came out. I'm really excited to use that this week. I did the kind of Dutch door cut down the side there, or down the center there, of one page. That gives me a really big tasks list that I really appreciate. And then I outlined my Hamilton logo there, but I didn't color it in this time, and maybe that's the difference. I like the simplicity of that. It just seemed to, like, work a lot better for the spread. I like a little bit of open space. I write in the margins. It worked for me. I wrote rise up there. That was my whole quote this week. I've talked before about my monthly cycle and how my menstrual cycle impacts my bullet journaling and impacts my my actual productivity. This is my week that I'm likely to get the most done out of the entire month. So rise up felt like the perfect quote for the week. Those stickers are some leftovers from Happy Planner that I've had forever. Honestly, I'm just trying to use them up, and I was tired by that point. As I said, I wasn't into lettering, so using stickers seemed perfect. So there is my full monthly for the month of May. My brain dump, my accomplishments page with my quotes there. You can see into my pocket of my desk. That's nice and messy. And then my weekly with the rise up, my habits there at the bottom of the Dutch door and my tasks. I really love how that came out. I'm really excited to start using that this week. Of course, I had to go back in and fix one more error, I suppose, but that it is as it goes. This was a really messy monthly, and I just kind of wanted to show you the reality of bullet journaling. So if you like this video, subscribe and come join me over on Patreon and go make something fun.